Good morning. I, Net Health. As normal, we are coming to you from the beautiful Vancouver Island area of the Coast Salish people, particularly the Nanaimo First Nation here in the Nanaimo area, with whom we are grateful and proud to work and play and cooperate. And we say, Hai Sipka.
Hai Sipka. I like that. Thank you for that. So we thought what would be great is to talk about identity crisis.
Identity crisis. Personal or?
Organizational. Maybe a little bit of both. But why don't we start with organizational first?
Right.
And for those that are here in Canada and fans of Unity, you may not know that Unity Worldwide Ministries, so UWM, and then there's Unity Worldwide Spiritual Institute, UWSI.
And then Unity Worldwide Headquarters.
And then UWH, Unity Worldwide Headquarters.
Right.
And somehow they're all supposed to get together and play nicely together.
Right.
With this, recently we've had the chair of the board for UWM that resigned, and then a director also resigned. And it appears that there might be a difference of opinion on what Unity is and how Unity should move forward and what Unity should look like. Is that?
That is true.
Is that how that feels for you?
Yes,
Yeah.
It does. And that's a healthy thing, isn't it? Where we're not just laying down rules and regulations and this is the way we are and the way you have to be. So that's a good thing. But it just makes it difficult, really, if people feel a little unrest and not sure. But as we speak, there's a summit going on, and we'll see how it turns out. But, it doesn't surprise me, because as long as I've known about Unity, I've known, I wouldn't say it's an identity crisis, but there's a wide array of opinions about just what we are and who we are. Most people originally who came to Unity were Christians, and a lot of people have accepted Unity as a sort of more relevant Christianity that fits our world today, and also that many or more people have come to Unity because Christianity didn't work for them. So really, at the center of the debate is, are we Christian or are we not?
Yeah, that's well put. It seems like that's what is happening, is there's a movement perhaps that is wanting to establish a definition as Unity is Christian, and then there are those that are not wanting to be identified as that. And if it seems to me that where the beauty about Unity, I think, is the fact that there is no sort of underlying, this is what you must do and must teach. I mean, there is in a way, but there isn't. It's not real structured. And at the same time, in today's world, if you were to do any business class, any academic around how to grow a business or how to, how to make a dent in the universe, so to speak, with your social media presence, it is all about having a very focused, intentional message.
Right.
And so I'm curious if those two worlds are colliding. This idea of spirituality can be this open, let's just allow people to be who they are. And then in the world of actually attracting an audience, if that's what Unity wants to do, then the way to do that, all the business acumen says that you must do it in this way and you must have a focus.
Consistent branding.
Consistent branding, and, this is what we're going to be. And so that, I think, is where, not that I've had deep conversations with all the powers that be down there, but that sort of feels like where the problem lies is we want to grow. And yet, how do we do that if we don't have a consistent sort of overlying message?
Right, and which still embraces all of us. And when it comes to that, as long as I've been involved with Unity, I've had a personal identity crisis around that. People often ask, is this Christian? And my answer is usually, yes, but not exclusively. But to a traditional Christian, that would automatically disqualify me. So where do you... Definitely unity comes from Christian roots, but there was a metaphysically interpreted Christian roots, which is still at the foundation today. So we're definitely not traditional Christian.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and if you look up the definition of Christian, and I don't have it in front of me now, but it seems to me every time I've looked it up, I haven't felt like I belonged there.
yes,
Because the definition would be that recognizing Jesus as our Savior to some, like it's written in some context like that.
yes,
And that is not unity. That is not what unity stands for. Unity is that Jesus is a way shower,
yes,
a way of living that we can all attain. A word we like to use is that Christ consciousness.
yes,
And what does that mean? Well, that is the consciousness that is perceived that Jesus raised himself up to, that level of consciousness that would allow somebody to, die on the cross, so to speak.
and the idea that we need, what do we need saving from? And that springs from the traditional Christian teaching that we're born in sin, that we're essentially sinners. And even within traditional Christian denominations, I know that's getting fuzzy around the edges for a lot of people. So I really think it's a healthy thing that we're talking about it,
Yeah, I think, well, if anything, if you come out of this with a definite knowing of here's what we're standing on going forward, here's what we can all get behind in terms of a movement, because we are part of that new thought movement.
Yes.
Although I sometimes wondered, well, what does that mean?
There's nothing new in it, really.
Is there a movement? I didn't I don't know that there's a movement at play, but that certainly gets tossed around. And again, it for me it comes down to this idea that maybe what there is to focus on, and I heard this from a couple of ministers in one of the groups I frequent a lot for conversation, was that maybe what unity is here to do, or what I'm here to do as a minister and yourself, is to just actually raise consciousness.
Yes.
Like what if that was the focus, that we are here to raise consciousness, not only for ourselves, but for those that we can have a conversation with, to raise that level of consciousness. And I heard somebody else put it as, well, maybe it's three things. Maybe we could be in the world of inspiring people, educating people, and
empowering people.
Well, integrating,
okay.
Showing them how to integrate these teachings. Because it's one thing to stand in front of people and go, hey, this is a way of living that looks really great, it might work. But how does somebody then take that and actually use it as a tool and integrate it into their life from whatever circumstances they might be coming from?
Right. And see, I mean, I've heard talks from many traditional Christian theologians like John Shelby Spong, Tom Harper. A lot of people are still involved in the traditional mainstream Christian teachings, essentially teaching what we're teaching. And I guess the whole thing comes down to, what does Christianity mean? There's like 22,000 different Christian denominations or fractions or sects. So, I mean, can we ever answer that question? Because I think everyone has a touch of Christianity in them. I don't think there's anyone who doesn't embrace Christian values and respect Jesus as a great teacher in one way or another. So, in a way we're all the same, but in a way we're all different.
Yeah.
Whole philosophy of life right there, isn't there? Yeah.
The more that things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah.
I think that's a French saying. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's
Je
all
ne
I
sais
know.
pas.
That's it. There's my French right there. Plus ça change, plus c'est la même chose. The more that things change, the more they stay the same.
Bien.
And I don't know that that's true. Actually, I think that there's definitely a rhyme to history as we go along. We seem, and we've talked about this before, is that circular
Spiral dynamics.
Spiral dynamics that and if you think about it, it's, at least if I think about it this way, it's the moving up in consciousness but never having the approach that the lower consciousness is bad. That's not the way to look at it. And it's not the way to look at it like, oh, if I'm higher up on the consciousness scale, I'm somehow better than others. It's this evolutionary process where we get to transcend our previous view, our previous experience, our previous understanding, and then we get to elevate ourselves to that next deepening of consciousness. And we bring along with us the good parts of what we have experienced
what
already.
we've learned. Right, exactly.
And if we can all do that, and if we could teach that, and I feel like if I can be an example for that in the world, whether it's one person that gets it or 10, then I've done a good thing.
Because what you say, I mean, we're here to raise consciousness. That's what we teach, and it's easy, it's simple, and it's not easy. It's the raising your consciousness is realizing who's doing it in your life. And it's not some far being there laying life on you. There's a life that you have some mastery in creating by knowing that the divinity, that sacred wisdom, is actually found inside when we go inside. So whether it's Christianity, Buddhism, anything else, the purpose should be to empower you to work with the divine instead of blame the divine for everything that's going wrong and thinking you have no choice.
Yeah. And I would say, when I heard you say that it's simple, what rings true for me is the truth of it is simple.
Yeah.
The getting to it is the hard part.
Work.
Because it takes the discipline. It takes a deep desire from within and then the discipline to put it in place. And if we go back to even just the idea of what do we focus on, and if we're going to build a business and we're going to have a message, it takes discipline within that business to really focus on what is that truth of the business. And I would say that we could take that to the personal level, and that's really what we're aiming for is how do we as individuals deepen our relationship with spirit, God, universe, creator, whatever word you want to put on it, brotherhood, the unified force that we all feel. How do we deepen that experience and still move ourselves forward powerfully in a way that we can share it into the world? Because that's really when it takes beautiful shape, is when it's when others can see that as an example to live.
And the way we do that is just by consciously, moment by moment, making the choice. Choice for love, the choice for forgiveness, the choice for non-judgment. My goodness, how many, our minds are constantly judging something. So we just need to keep saying, I allow that to be the way it is. I forgive everything, even things that haven't happened yet. I forgive them now so that I'm constantly living in a state of forgiveness, which leaves room for love. And that's the only way we'll get to peace and joyful life experience, is just forgive it all. No judgment. Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh, that's... We
said it wasn't easy, right?
Yeah, it's not easy. I saw the other day a post from Eckhart. I don't know that he posted it, but it was somebody posted this, and it was him actually speaking, saying that, there's this whole idea of how do I become present? How do I live my life in a world of being present? And I love how he put it, because he said, the moment you notice that you're not present, you're present.
It's true.
It's as simple as that, right? Just the noticing that I'm actually not present is the founding groundwork that you need to be present.
Exactly.
And then it's a matter of how can I reproduce that on an ongoing basis? How can I notice how I'm acting, how I'm behaving, how I'm responding, and at the same time notice those that are with me and be part of community. And in this world, it's so easy to shut ourselves off from what's going on around us with our technology and our cell phones. And I know that I'm super guilty of this. Like, I have become so hitched to my communication device. I can't even, it's when I stop and think, like, what was life like before I even had this thing? I don't even know that I know. Like,
I remember
How do I even manage?
Yeah. But that's interesting, noticing who's around you instead of being so insulated. And I was just thinking maybe unity, do they need to decide whether they're Christian or non-Christian? Or can we define ourselves as an organization that embraces open-minded, forward-thinking Christians and non-Christians?
Yeah.
Maybe we just have to allow the fact that there's an identity crisis or, distribution of opinions, allow that to be and not have that be a problem.
Yeah, I'm reminded of, as you're sharing that, I was thinking about the talk I gave last Sunday and the Four Noble Truths, the truth about suffering. And it feels like when I look at what's happening within the internal working parts of unity, it seems like there's some suffering going on right now, right? As ideas clash. And it's not always warm and fuzzy. There's some heated exchanges that happen in this world of ideas and adopting ideas and ways of being that, some people are going to go for and some aren't.
But you know what I always like about unity at any of these meetings, whether it's on the individual level or the international level, there's a conference, and at any time, any person can call for prayer. And we stop, and we reground ourselves, and we start again. That's pretty groundbreaking, I think, in the world.
It's and there will be those that are like, big deal. What is prayer? Who even knows what that is? And I've seen it in action. When I attended the conference last year in the U.S., and their AGM, and it's certainly a lot bigger than Unity Canada's AGM by representation of how many different churches there are and ministers and teachers. That it was, I think prayer was called for 3 or 4 times. So as things got elevated, it was like, hey, and this is, you could almost take this to the Eckhart Tolle where it's like, it's time to presence ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's all of a sudden, let's get out of the head of, I got to get what I need to say out and I'm going to rebuttal what you have to say and you're going to rebuttal. Let's get out of that world and into actually just, we're in this room with people. Wait a second.
We remember who we are now. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
And that the infinite, the divine, is present in that room. And when we shut up for a minute, we'll hear it and be aware again. Yeah. So it's not a bad thing.
No, it's good. It's good to have these. And, as far as Unity Vancouver Island goes moving forward, we are Unity Vancouver Island, and we share traditions and conversations from all faiths in the world. We're not closed off. And, I know for me personally, I've always thought Jesus was cool. From when I was a little boy, I thought he was this cool guy, and I still do. And I think there's a path there that one could live. I've thought about this often. There's those that people will say, well, Jesus saves. And it's like, I can take that one of two ways. It's because the underlying premise most of the time of that, when somebody comes at you with Jesus saves, is that you need to accept Jesus as your Savior and God, right?
And nothing else.
And nothing, yeah. And I just don't go that way.
Yeah.
However, what I can see at the same time inside of that is that, if I were to actually follow the teachings, the Sermon on the Mount, the ways of being that Jesus said, here's a way to live.
Yes.
Then, in fact,
I would save myself a lot of suffering.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. So in that context, sure. But also the Buddha teachings save, and the Hindu teachings save, and our own traditional people on the land in Canada here, their way of living and working with the creator or creator and creation itself saves. Like it's all working in that same element. And so, are we Christian? I don't know. Do we talk about Jesus? Yeah, we do.
Yeah. And so I'm just thinking, to all the people in Unity who are struggling with that now, and to any individual who struggles with their own, am I spiritual or am I religious, and struggles with their own questions, the answer is always the divine is within you, within you. So once you embrace the truth about yourself, you can embrace everyone else. So open to listen to opinions. You don't always have to act on them, but you do need to hear each other. And that goes for, at the individual level, at our family level, at our unity family level, and at our world level. Middle East, listen to each other. Know that you're all divine and perfect, and forgive each other, because goodness knows we've all made mistakes. Even though we're not particularly miserable sinners, but we have made mistakes. So forgiveness, it could have been you.
Yeah, and forgiveness for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
That too. I think as I wrestle with this in my own head, and as you and I have discussed, and I discuss with other people I went through ministry with, I'm more and more clear that I can stand on unity teachings of the 5 principles. I can stand on, the Trinity that the Fillmores talked about, subconscious, conscious, and superconscious mind idea, and I can stand on the 12 powers, and maybe that's just what unity is those simple teachings, and really emphasizing that as a foundation for living, that if we tune into those things, have an understanding of how they work within us, then we can call on ourselves, each one of us, to rally in those moments where we need something to rally behind, or to hold us up. And at the same time, there's always that need for compassion and togetherness with others, and being heard, and having others be heard. It's all part of that same thing. And I feel like the more I stand in those unity teachings, the more I see that, and the more that I can bring that into my daily living. Because that's what matters, is the daily use of these things, these principles,
these tools. Yeah.
Not just on Sunday, or not just on Wednesday night when we have a meeting or a gathering, or I go take a course, but every day of my life, bringing those in. That's the work. That's the hard part.
Remembering our oneness. At no time is there you and me, and you, us, and them. That's an illusion. There's only one life in, as, and through each and every one of us. Yeah, and that life is love.
Right. So when I'm in a band and I mess up as the drummer, everybody messes up with me.
That's right.
We all sound terrible together.
And there's no point in blaming you. You all just got to practice more. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Have we changed the world?
So that's an interesting point, because what is changing the world? I mean, it can be as simple as changing my view of the world. So maybe, yes, in this past 20 minutes,
we've reminded ourselves who we are.
Yeah, and so the world that I was viewing when I walked in here and the one I see now is likely slightly different.
It's all good.
It's perfect. As I like to say, it's all perfect, because exactly everything that was supposed to unfold right now, putting in all the things that have happened and all the circumstances that brought us together to have this conversation, is exactly what was supposed to happen.
Couldn't have happened any other way.
All right. Love and blessings.
You too.